Khalil Mack has been traded. The Raiders and the Bears have agreed to place. They have an agreement in place to trade pass rusher Khalil Mack to Chicago. We had heard the Raiders were asking for 2 first-round picks in exchange for Mack, so it looks like that's what the Bears gave up here. Is this a good trade for the Bears? He was the number 5 overall pick in the 2014 draft. He's an All-Pro. He was probably the best defensive player the Raiders had on the roster.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Raiders also have a pretty good defensive line that's in place right now, and I'm sure they're going to want to build on that. But as far as the Bears are rebuilding. You know, they have lost quite a few players. They've lost that mystique about the Bears, especially when it comes to their defense. So I think Khalil Mack will fit in, fairly well over at the Bears. I think it's going to take a little while they're still rebuilding for him to be a top contender on a top contending team. But I think Khalil Mack was worth the 2 first-round picks. Yeah. I really do. I mean, this guy.
It's 2 first-round picks?
That's
a great trade.
Oh, yeah.
I like this the trade for Oakland, quite frankly, with Gruden being in there for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
$100 million, baby.
10 mil per.
For those that don't know, Khalil Mack made league history in 2015. He was named first-team All-Pro at both offensive linebacker and defensive end. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know you could do that. In 2016, he was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Last season, he had 10.5 sacks. That was the fewest since his rookie year, and he wasn't named to the All-Pro team. He has 40.5 sacks for his career and 185.5 quarterback pressures since 2014. That leads the NFL. So the Bears pick him up a good one. They're going to pair him with Roquan Smith, who they drafted number 8th overall this past draft, and the number 9 overall pick from 2016, Leonard Floyd. So they are building a defense. They were number 9 in points allowed last year.
Was there some friction between him and Coach Gruden?
Well,
they were saying they weren't talking or something.
Yeah, right from the start. They never even spoke.
They never really spoke from the start. And Triad listeners, let's let this be a lesson to everyone, whether it's in your personal life or whatever it is. Communication is key.
It really
I
is.
guarantee you, had Khalil and the Raiders spoke, included John Gruden, I bet you these guys could have got something worked out. But when you sit on 2 sides or 2 ends of the spectrum, you don't talk to one another. You don't communicate. You don't let the other person know how important you are to them and they're important to you. And I'm speaking Raiders, Khalil Mack, not your personal relationships, but it does work in those
It
too.
does.
All
It
right?
applies.
But yes,
I'm
I will
listening
guarantee
very
you.
closely.
I know, right? I feel like I'm getting some life
Rodney,
lessons
can we have lunch afterwards?
Hey, you better believe it. But I really believe they could have worked something out because a player like Khalil Mack, knowing the Raiders system, bringing in a coach like John Gruden, I mean, they are ready to just explode. And then you let this non-communication really take a couple of steps back, in my opinion, for the Raiders.
And this was a year where the AFC West, we just did the AFC West, was it last week?
Yes.
It's kind of wide open because we weren't really too sure. That was the first division where we were kind of all over the place in terms of our picks.
I had the Raiders in last place. I think Gruden is going to fall on his face.
Wow.
Every time one of these coaches come back, it reminds me of Joe Gibbs. When he came back to the Redskins, everybody was like, the Redskins are going to be back to glory, and they just stunk it up for like a couple of years, and he's like, I'm going back to NASCAR, and you guys can have it.